I'm not going to do it because I'm going to listen to my body. I think that's honestly, like, to answer your original question, that's the thing that's probably changed the most over these 7 years is I listen to myself more now than I did in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like, it's there. I got to do it. If I don't do it because it's on paper, then, you know, I was a failure today. And so, but now I'll be like, no, you know what? Actually, I'm kind of beat up. I'm going to go home. I'm good. And then some days I'm like, you know what? That wasn't enough. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit to it.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Mike Blitzer here with Doug Larson and Andy Galpin. And we're hanging out at Dynamis CrossFit here in Carlsbad. We have Wes Piatt. You've been a CrossFit Games competitor. You've been competing. You just wrapped up regionals.
Yep.
And you're alive.
Yeah, I'm alive, yeah. I made it through the weekend not injured, which seems like it was a task.
Yeah. I think almost every athlete after regionals I get talking to them, half of them are beat up in some way.
Yeah.
Every athlete that has their pecs still is just really happy about that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that was definitely a big one this year. Yeah. I was laughing, actually. We were saying that my mom used to make fun of me when I was a kid growing up, and because my dad was really big. He was like 6'7", like 280. He was a big
You're a
dude.
runt.
Yeah,
right.
Big dude. And just like, man, mustache, like, you know, yeah, big ass guy. And she would always like be like, you need to eat more. And she would always poke my chest and be like, look how small you are. You need to eat more. And blah, 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 and like poke my chest.
Is this your mom?
Yes, my mom.
Holy shit.
You little wuss.
Most people's moms are like, will you please stop eating?
No, my mom's, she was Irish, Polish, like crazy, you know, and so she would always like make fun of me because I was really a skinny kid growing up. She's like, you go to the gym, work out more, eat more, get bigger, you know, like your dad and stuff. And then I laughed this weekend. I'm like, every dude that had huge pecs blew him out this weekend. So what's up now?
Yeah, Mom.
I think that's the reason why I didn't blow out a pec, because I just don't have any pecs. So
There's no pecs to blow out.
That's a strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not like you're a small human being. Like, how big are you?
5'11", like 200 pounds.
Yeah, you're not like a super small kid.
Yeah, but it took 7 years for that to happen, of like working out 6 hours a day.
So all this working out is just to finally have your mom love you.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Were you working out before you found CrossFit?
Actually, I mean, a little bit. I grew up surfing and snowboarding, rock climbing, that kind of stuff. I did play baseball and football growing up, but I hated the gym. I hated working out. I didn't like going in and doing back squats with everybody. Even during football, like practice, when we go into the weight room, I would find ways to like skip out and go watch film instead. You know, that's how I would get out of working out, because I didn't like being in there. And I think it was more just like I wasn't benching as much as everybody else was my age, and I wasn't back squatting as much. And so I found it that I got away with my athleticism more than anything. I think like surfing and snowboarding and stuff like that helped me out a lot. And so I would ask my coach if I can go watch film instead of working out. And that's how I got out of it. And then I even joined the military after high school, and I still didn't like working out and going to the gym.
You were doing like all the things that ask you to work out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think I just got through with my own athleticism. Like I've always been like picked up on things pretty quick. I don't want to say like super quick, but like surfing, like I loved it. It was a challenge, and so I stuck with it. And it was something that not a lot of people were good at, so I wanted to do it. And then when I found CrossFit, it was like that feeling again of like, hey, not many people are doing this, and this is really fucking cool. And it hurts really bad, but it doesn't feel like I'm working out. It feels like I'm playing a sport again. And so I think that's why I kind of fell in love with it. Yeah.
Yep. So when did you start CrossFitting?
2009.
Yeah. What got you into that?
I was on actually a deployment. It was my last deployment in Kuwait, and we showed up, and there were a couple guys there doing it, and they had like the "What is CrossFit" posted up that Greg Glassman had put up and stuff. And usually you go on a deployment, and that's when everybody buys their supplements and tries to get super jacked because you can't drink when you're there, and you're like, well,
supplements.
Yeah, supplements. It was basically every like no explode product that you could possibly get, right, and stuff, and you would just you go to the gym all day long. That's all you do on deployment. So
I've been on deployment. I know what that's like.
Yeah, exactly.
You just work out.
That's it. That's all you do.
Yeah.
Right. And so we showed up, and there were a couple guys doing that, and I tried Filthy 50 was my first workout I tried, and I couldn't get through the double unders because I didn't know how to do double unders. And I remember just throwing the jump rope across the room and, like, at that moment falling in love with it at the same time, being like, it's a new challenge. This is a new something that I'm not good at and I want to be good at. And then that was it. Stuck with it from then on.
Yeah. First year you competed was 2011?
Yeah, 2011 on the team with CrossFit Inferno. That was, like, my first CrossFit gym that I joined. Yeah.
And you run – which gym are you running now?
Coast Range CrossFit in Gilroy, California.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how does you've been competing since 2011 and it's 2017 now? How's that changed over the years? And the competition's gotten different too because you've competed on teams and as an individual.
Yeah. Oh my God, the competition now is insane. Just making it through the Open now is like what it used to feel like trying to go through regionals and get to the games. I feel like, you know. Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. I obviously when we first started doing this stuff, if you worked out more than once a day, you did like extra stuff on the side beside the class, you were considered like, whoa, this guy's an athlete. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's going to the games because he's back squatting in the corner after he did his workout, you know? And now it's like, you know, the 40-year-old dad in the gym does that, and if he doesn't, it's like, what are you doing? You should be doing something else, you know? So it's obviously changed a lot as far as I think volume goes, but I think the cool thing I'm seeing now is that it's actually starting to come back, I think, to that intensity is really what drives results. And I think we're seeing a shift. Even like look at regionals this year, 6 events, 1 dumbbell, no barbells, and people are leaving that thing wrecked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not like there was, you know, normally there's 7 events every year. There's some pretty heavy-ass barbells usually. And the workload, you look at it, you'd be like, wow, this is a lot of work, right? And this weekend, you look at it on paper, and you're like, seems like 6 workouts I would do at my normal gym, and you know, everything would be cool, not a big deal, wouldn't be that sore, but the intensity of the people that are around you and the surrounding that you're in, and then you leave that weekend like just beat up, you know. And so I think that was a big wake-up call for a lot of people to be like, hey, yeah, great, you're doing 5 workouts a day, but are you putting what you should be putting into them, you know, to get actual results out of it? So I think we're going to kind of see a comeback around here of people like dropping the volume down a little bit and focusing more on intensity. At least I hope. That was what I'm going to try to get people to do. So
yeah, the volume in the past has been really high. It is nice to see it dialed back a little bit.
Yeah, I just don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah.
Right.
I think from a health perspective, it's good to actually pull the barbells out from so much of the Metcon type of environment. It was cool to see that, and at the same time, as a spectator, it's not as much fun.
Oh,
like
really?
As a spectator, I'm going to see barbells. So
see
like,
people lift
from
heavy ass shit.
I'm watching someone snatch a dumbbell. I'm just like, oh, cool. Just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, you take a lesson from Instagram. Like everyone that gets a ton of likes on Instagram, they're doing heavy snatches, heavy clean jerks, heavy deadlifts. Like that stuff just gets a lot of likes. Like but no one's doing like kettlebell walks or overhead one-arm overhead squats with a dumbbell and getting a lot of likes on Instagram. It's just not as spectator friendly. So
yeah,
I understand why they did it. It's very cool they did it. It caught everyone off guard, and that's totally awesome. But as far as the spectators go, it's probably not quite as entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's the cool thing about what Dave does, right? Is he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he's the perfect guy for it.
You know what I mean? Like he really, he's like, no, I don't really care. Like he cares. Obviously, the way that Dave sets up regionals and the game stuff, it's got to be spectator like friendly, right? You would look at it, you can see who's ahead, you can see who's behind and stuff like that. He really thinks about that stuff, but at the same time, he sticks true to what CrossFit is. You know, it's you know, workload across broad time and mortal domains. Like how much work can you do in a short amount of time? And so, hey, if we bring down the weight, right, and make that not an issue for somebody not to be able to move faster, then you know, what is your excuse? And so, yeah, it may not be as spectator friendly, but it's cool to see that they're sticking true to what CrossFit is.
Yeah, it's a good test of fitness when it's not something that you've practiced a million times. Well, now it's just who can adapt and do something that's a little bit novel, and the fittest person still is going to come out on top. Yeah,
for sure. And I actually enjoy that stuff more, to be honest with you. I mean, 100% honest, like I don't enjoy CrossFit. I don't enjoy doing like workouts and suffering, and you know, that's not fun. You know what I mean? But the fun part is like when you finish and you're like, oh wow, I did that. That was cool. Right. Like I accomplished that, and I did it with you, and cool, awesome. Now we're closer together. Like that's what makes CrossFit cool, right?
Totally.
And the fact that you can adapt to things. So I've always enjoyed like stones and sandbags and dumbbells and things like that because it got me away from like, well, if I just practice this barbell movement over and over and over again, like I'll get good at this barbell movement. It's like surfing. You have to adapt to the wave. When the wave comes out, you have to be able to move with it and flow with it. And I think that that's how you should be as an athlete too as well. And I think that tested a lot of people this weekend. Yeah,
I feel like similar to what you just said, like CrossFit's not necessarily fun, but it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Like you get an enormous sense of accomplishment when you finish something. It's like doing airdyne sprints. I've never enjoyed doing airdyne sprints, but I'm always like really proud of myself for digging myself into a hole where I have to go lay down for like 45 minutes to like recover from like, 1 minute of work.
Yep.
Like it's very satisfying, but it's not necessarily fun during it. It's like the old expression that it doesn't have to be fun to be fun.
Yeah, no, totally, 100%. Yeah, it's like this weekend, like, going through like half those events, you get halfway through an event and you're like, man, screw this. I just want to stop, but you obviously keep going and you push yourself through it. And then when you finish, you're like, man, all right, cool. I'm glad I didn't stop. I'm glad I kept going.
So having gone to regionals like 6 times now, something like that, like since 2011, you have this pattern, this yearly cycle, where the Open's coming up, you're training for that, and then you're going to go to regionals, and then you've gone to the games before it. So what does your year look like? Like you finish regionals, if you go to the games, then of course you train for that. But then after the games, like okay, like games are over, and now I have to wait and. Not wait, but I have so many months until the Open comes again. Like how do you structure a whole year knowing that you're competing to go back to regionals again?
Yeah, so every year when I finish regionals or whatever, I always tell my wife, I'm like, that's it, I'm taking like a month off. I'm gonna eat like shit, I'm not gonna do anything, and then like 3 days later I'm back in the gym and I'm doing what I normally do. And every year I sit down and go, okay, well, this is how I'm going to plan it out. August through whatever, I'm going to make sure that I'm just getting strong. And then this or this, I'm going to make sure I'm doing this. And every year it just turns into that I just do CrossFit. You know what I mean? I just go in and I work out and I lift heavy after or before, and I, do some things that I haven't done in a while, and I just practice stuff, and I think, to be honest with you, I do a lot better. I'm a very like structured person, so I really enjoy a lot of, sitting down and trying to plan things out. But at the same time, like I'll do that and it'll make me feel good, and then I'll start doing it and I'm like, I don't like this, and I'll change it and I'll do something else and I'll move with it and I'll keep going. And so, but it ends up turning into every year when I sit down and come up with this huge plan of what I'm going to do all year long, and then I start doing it and I start changing it, and then I look back on it after regionals over and I'm like, oh, I just did a bunch of CrossFit all year.
Didn't follow that at all.
Yeah, I didn't follow that plan at all. But I mean, mentally it's good for me. It keeps me structured and keeps me moving, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm planning things out and I have a goal and a task and a way to get there. But I'm cool with changing that as it goes. And so as far as like answering your actual question, what does my year look like? It's almost the same all year long, to be honest with you. Volume doesn't change very much, like intensity doesn't change very much. I always do, no matter what. Like, so we do our class workout at Coast Range. I try to do that with the class as much as possible. I do some sort of a heavy lift afterwards. I try to get in some sort of a gymnastics piece. Like, I know I suck at handstand push-ups, and I've been focusing on those for 7 years and they haven't gotten better, I feel like. And it's like, so and then I go home and I just do that over and over and over again and hope things get better. And so far I feel like they've gotten better because the competition's gotten better, and I've been able to stay with that at least. Haven't made it back to the game since 2013, but I've been able to stay with everybody, so I think that it's working.
Yeah, Chris Moore wrote a really cool article for for the website. I believe it was called Chaos in the Weight Room. So it's been up for a couple of years, but he outlined what we see scientifically all the time, which is that having a plan is far better than no plan at all, but why you train is probably more important in the long run than exactly how you train. So your method is probably the most realistic combination of ideal and actually going to do, in terms of if you go in there and wing it every single day with no plan at all, you're probably going to be in a very, very bad spot. But so that act, like you said, of just going through of putting the pen on the paper a little bit, having some sort of plan, even though you abandon it for the most part very quickly, it's still very, very important to do that.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think, something that's underappreciated, of going through the plan, even though if you're like, well, I know I'm going to just adjust it or leave it, so why even start in the first place? That's a bad approach, right? You have to have some target in place. So even though you are adjusting it, what are some of the central pieces of the plan for yourself that you generally start with, at least, and we know you change it, but...
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, like you said, like I'm not I know I made it sound like it is just, you know, oh, I read this plan and I say, fuck it, and I don't do any of it, right? But I definitely, like, obviously, like, I'll pull up some sort of a strength program and I'll focus on, like, hey, my deadlift needs to go up. So I'm going to spend the next, 6 to 8 weeks focusing on my deadlift. Or, my handstand push-ups need to get better. So I'm going to search out some sort of a program that's going to help me with my handstand push-ups, or maybe adopt one or change it a little bit that I think would help me out better. And I do stick to those things, but it's just that day-to-day of, like, hey, I don't feel like doing that. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to listen to my body. I think that's honestly, like, to answer your original question, that's the thing that's probably changed the most over these 7 years is I listen to myself more now than I did in the beginning. In the beginning, it was like, it's there. I got to do it. If I don't do it because it's on paper, then, I was a failure today. And so, but now I'll be like, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm kind of beat up. I'm going to go home. I'm good. And then some days I'm like, you know what? That wasn't enough. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit to it and do that too as well. So, yeah, I will put down like some sort of a strength program, or I will put down some sort of gymnastics program and stuff. But the CrossFit stuff is just whatever we're doing in the gym every single day. That stays the same. Yeah,
you're talking about listening to yourself. I think a lot of times that's like a foreign idea to a lot of people. Yeah, it's like just being able to hear that voice. And what I've come to realize is more about like that voice is always in there, like telling people like, hey, maybe you need to back off or maybe you need to add some more. But trusting it is the hard part.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why a lot of people seek out a coach, right?
Yeah.
Is because they don't trust themselves to do the things they should do. So, like, I have a couple individual athletes that I train, and that's my job as a coach is, we have this standard plan. I know where the weaknesses are, and I understand we need to get X and X and whatever better. But my real job is to every week when I talk to them and look back at the week of the training that they did is to be able to adjust that. Start first mentally. How are they feeling mentally about everything? Do they look, because I have one athlete in Seattle, and I do a FaceTime with her every single week, right? And she's like, well, can we just call each other? And I'm like, no, I want to see you.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see what you physically look like. You get on there and you can see bags under people's eyes or something like that, or they're just, you can see that they don't have that glow about them that they normally do. And it's just taking what they say, or not even what they say, but how they say it.
Yeah.
You could be like, hey, how did those handstand push-ups go this week? And they're like, oh, it went pretty good. Or they're like, oh, it went really good.
Yeah.
Like, those are two completely different ways of saying that something went good. And you could tell if you can read people, which I think most, hopefully, CrossFit gym owners can. That's what we do every single day is we see hundreds of people come through our doors, and all we do is read them. And in the middle of a workout, we read them, how are they doing? Like, should I yell at this person right now? Do they look like they need it? Or should I leave them alone because they don't need it, And so being able to look at somebody every single week and adjust things for them based off of not what they say, but what you hear is what a coach is for. And like you were saying, a lot of people won't trust themselves to do that. So that's why they reach out to other people and have coaches to help them do that. So I don't have a coach. And so I don't know if I've been screwing that up or not, probably have been.
So what are some of the signs or self-talk in your own training that you listen to or look for when you decide to take a day off, right? So,
I listen to my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, she's pretty good telling me, like, hey, you're being an asshole now, or, or like, hey, maybe she has really good ways of saying, like, hey, maybe you should take a day off, or like, hey, you want to go over to Santa Cruz and like hang out with, and stuff. She had these little ways, and like, I'm one of those guys like, no, I got to train, I got to do blah, blah. She's like, I think it'd be a good day for you to go to the beach.
Is this like the same way, like your wife is telling you that? It's the same way as like, are you on your period?
Yeah, totally, right? Like, you're acting like a dick right now, and like, I'll get super cranky, if I'm overtrained and not feeling good, and and I just don't have that stoke for life when those types of things happen. And we actually, like, I went through like a pretty bad state, I would say, about the last 2 months leading up to this regionals, where I was really like, I got through the open this year and, qualified for regionals and stuff. But during the open, I was like really questioning myself, like, man, should I be doing this? Is this worth it? We just had a baby 6 months ago. I had surgery on my shoulder last year. I'm like, I'm all beat up. I have a brand new kid. Like, should I be spending 6 hours in the gym every single day and doing this stuff? Like, is this what's going to fulfill my life? Does this really matter to me? And really went through like a straight depressed state of 100%. And what pulled me out of it was my wife going like, hey, you know what you need to do? She's like, you need to go and have like 6 or 7 beers and chill out. And, you know, and like an athlete, they're like, no, like I don't drink, you know, I can't drink. I'm training. I'm trying to go to CrossFit games. Like if you drink, oh my God, like you're never going to make it. And I literally I probably had like 15 or 20 beers and got completely, you know, shit-faced with some friends. And had
6? I can do better than that.
Yeah. But like we went over.
I can't? Yeah. Watch this.
Yeah, we went over to a friend's house and hung out on the beach with all of our kids and stuff. And no, I wasn't like the only one there with a kid. You know, my wife was there and stuff.
Yeah.
But we just hung out with friends and I just had a great time. And then I took like 3 days off of working out and I had this new energy again, you know, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Yeah,
so,
I
did you ever feeling down, just get wasted?
Yeah, I didn't know alcohol was so effective for depression. I felt so good afterward.
It's the worst advice ever for anybody, right? God, nobody's gonna want to come to me as a coach and be like, "This guy's a fucking."
Or you're gonna get a lot of people.
A ton of people coming.
Oh yeah, this guy knows what I need.
Yeah,
this guy knows me.
When I was 25, I would have been lining up. I mean, like a coach is going to tell me to get wasted?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
I do not tell people to do that. In fact,
actually, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, no. Actually, like that's one of the things I ask people when they ask if, you know, hey, will you coach me? And I go, well, do you drink? And like if they're like, oh, fuck yeah, then I'm like, I don't really know if I want to coach you. But if they're like, yeah, good sometimes, filter. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Then that's great. You know, balance in your life. But
interesting.
I didn't have balance. You know, and that's how I've always been. I've been very like, if I'm doing something, I'm doing it 100%. There is nothing else to it. And so, I needed that extreme in one way to pull me back to balance in my life altogether.
I call it extreme balance.
Oh, okay.
You just live at either side of the spectrum. And then, you know, just make sure that, you know, there's that it's teeter-tottering the whole time, you know? It's like, oh, I'm a little too far on the side. I'm going to get over there.
That's totally actually how I am, like 100%. Yeah. Like I'm either...
We should hang out.
I'm either like, I'm in party mode, you know what I mean? And like that's the way it is, like we're getting down, or I'm like, no, I'm working and leave me alone. I can't talk to anybody. My friends are dead to me. And that's it.
One of the main criticisms from people, especially those outside of the CrossFit world, about CrossFit is it's not sustainable. You're not going to do it for that long. You're going to burn out, injury, mentally, whatever. After 7 years of competing, are you getting tired of it? Are you still enjoying it? Are you enjoying it less, more? Is it sustainable for you?
I think we should take a break and come back to that question.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Technique Quad. Today we're talking about barbell glute bridges. So like I said, we're going to talk about barbell glute bridges today, and really we're going to talk about a progression for all types of glute bridges. So first, if you don't know what a barbell glute bridge is, or just what a glute bridge in general is, it looks like this. You set a bar on your hips, grab wherever, then you're just squeezing your butt and pushing your hips to the sky with your ribs down, and you're just doing reps like this. And barbells are obviously nice and convenient because just like every other movement, you can load to whatever weight you're comfortable with, but there's a million other ways you can do it as well. So before we go through the progression and we show you how to load and tell you how many sets and reps and all that to do, first, why barbell glute bridges, and and also why don't you see them very often? They were kind of pioneered and brought into the strength and conditioning community over the last like 10 years or so by Brett Contreras, who's kind of known as the glute guy. Follow him on social media and whatnot if you haven't seen his stuff. He's very smart. Hope to get him on the show one of these days, actually. A very smart guy, and he kind of pioneered terminal hip extension and a lot of these kind of glute dominant exercises and a whole bunch of other stuff too. Great dude, very smart, but glute bridges is one of the main things that really stuck in the world of strength and conditioning, in the world of performance through a lot of his work. So it's not common in the CrossFit world yet. It's kind of sneaking its way in since CrossFit's kind of trailing strength and conditioning, or good strength and conditioning anyway, a little bit. So it's working its way in right now, especially for the competitive athletes because they're trying it out and they're seeing a lot of value in it. So the reason it's valuable is a lot of people tend to be very, especially when you're coming out of either a bad strength and conditioning program or no strength and conditioning program, you tend to be a very a quad dominant athlete. It means you use your quads probably more than you use your hips, muted hip function or weak glutes or whatever you want to say. A lot of people have that problem where they got flat asses and big quads, right? So if you got a profile, you got no ass and big quads, this is probably you. So if you have a big ass, doesn't mean that your ass is working, but it's a good sign that at least it's doing something. So as far as what your glutes are going to be doing while you're moving, generally, if I'm very bent over and I'm bending at the hip, down here when you feel that stretch in your hamstrings, if I'm doing an RDL or something, right here, that big stretch in my hamstrings have a good mechanical advantage to kind of pull me back up. But once I get up here, now my glutes are starting to take over the bulk of the part that is going to finish this movement. So as I squeeze my glutes, they're going to pull me through the end of my range of motion. That's called terminal hip extension. And then also something that people don't talk about is that they're also going to help me hyperextend my hip, where it's kind of pulling my hip past neutral and all the way, you know, as far as it can possibly go. So if you think about running or especially sprinting, where I'm cycling through and then I'm coming here, my hip is hyperextended and then I cycle back through. Being able to, you know, still produce force once I contact the ground and then pull myself all the way through. Certainly my hamstrings and the rest of my legs are gonna be doing something, but my glutes are gonna have a big role in that movement. And if you don't have strong glutes and they can't contract through that tiny bit of hyperextension at the hip joint, then you're not gonna be as fast as you would otherwise. Likewise, you know, if you see people deadlift and they have all these funny compensations where they get here, and they come off the ground and they're okay, and then they get here and they're shaking here and they can't seem to finish the lift. A lot of times that's because they have weak glutes. Likewise, if they get to here again and to finish the lift, they don't actually extend their hip and they instead hyperextend their back like this, where my hip is bent and my back is hyperextended. A lot of times they have weak glutes. And if I can just extend my hips all the way like this, that's finishing the movement at the hip joint. This is not a finished movement. I look like I'm standing all the way up, but actually my back's hyperextended, my low back's hyperextended, my glutes aren't contracting maximally, and my hip joint is slightly bent. And actually usually too, if you can see my knees, they're usually locked out, okay? So if I can soften my knee, just make it straight rather than locked out, squeeze my glutes, pull my ribs down, pull my shoulders back. Now I'm standing all the way straight up, and I'm in a good solid position. My back's not at risk, and I have actually completed the movement. Okay? Another thing that people tend to do is, especially when deadlifting, if I stick with the same example here, is I'll stand up, maybe I get to here, and I can't finish it, and then I'll lean back and I'll slide my knees under, and I'll try and use my quads to get up, okay? That's a compensation. I'll say rather it can be a compensation for weak glutes. My stronger quads are trying to take over the movement because my glutes can't seem to do their job, where it's quads, hamstrings, glutes, adductors, where it's all the muscles, the big muscles in your legs working together to finish the movement. Glutes aren't doing the job. I'm like, well, I got strong quads, I'll let them kind of do the lift for me, okay? So the list could go on, but long story short, having strong glutes is a very important thing. On a separate kind of side note, important to not getting injured. Anytime you see somebody squat and they do this kind of knee wobble thing where their knees come in, your glutes are external rotators, right? One of their jobs is to pull your knee out by externally rotating your hip. So a lot of times, people that have this problem where they do the knee wobble, a lot of times that means that they're not getting enough activation out of their glutes. If they can strengthen their hips and the other hip external rotators, they're much more likely to keep their knees healthy, to not have their knee dive in, to not tear their ACL, to not beat up their medial meniscus, to not get patellofemoral tracking problems, and they're much more likely to have a healthier knee in the long run. So I showed you what a glute bridge looks like. We're going to walk through a short progression. In fact, I'll probably come here, it's probably easier. Walk through a short progression. The easiest thing, it's about to hop on the ground. The easiest thing is to do a short series of activation drills where you're just getting your glutes used to contracting maximally, in this fully hip extended position, okay? So I'm just gonna stand here and just squeeze my butt together. Just getting my glutes used to contracting. If you wanna, put your thumbs on or just, kind of get a handful, you can do that too. Just make sure that your glutes are contracting all the way. If I have very short hip flexors or I'm tight, kind of anywhere in this range, then I might not be able to get full length out of the front side here, and that pulled together is going to bend my hip like that. It's going to make it's going to make it hard for my glutes to pull this apart if this is all very short. So at a minimum, you're going to have to stretch your hip flexors if you just, no matter what you do, you can't get past this kind of hyperextended position. If you walk around with this anterior pelvic tilt all the time, then you might be chronically short on the front side of your hip, okay? So, just basic stretches. You know, if you have a band here, I don't have a band for the moment. If you have a band here tied around your hip and it's pulling you forward and you got your ribs down, you're squeezing your glute, that's one of the best stretches for the front side of your hips. Also the couch stretch where you're doing basically the same thing, but your knee is bent. Go watch K-Stars. He's got a million videos on the couch stretch and stretching your hip flexors. Progression-wise, here's what it looks like. The easiest thing to do is just lay on your back. Usually I pull my toes off the ground. If your heels are down and your toes are up, it makes it where you're automatically pushing with your heels because you don't have another option. And anytime you're pushing with your heels, it's much more likely that you're going to be able to get a good solid glute contraction. So I'm here. All I'm going to do is keep my ribs down and push my hips as high as I can with my ribs down. I don't want to hyperextend like this. I don't want to pop my ribs and hyperextend my back. I want to keep a neutral spine. My ribs are down. And my hips are pushed up as high as I can with my ribs down. You should be able to feel the fact that your glutes are contracting. So hold it for a second, get a nice squeeze, go back down, hips up, squeeze your glutes, ribs down, and squeeze for a second or two. And you can use that if you're brand spanking new and you have a lot of problems with this. If it's really hard, you can actually use that as your exercise for the day. You can do it in your warm-ups, or like I said, you can actually use it as a real assistance movement towards the end of your workouts. Probably one of the last things you do on the day. You probably wouldn't Metcon with it. It's probably not truly strength work if you're doing it without any additional weight. Although strength work for you certainly, but I wouldn't put it in the category of the big movements. So that's kind of level one. Level two would be to do it with one leg. So you pull one knee up as high as you can, again, ribs down, and then you just, same thing. I'm gonna contract my glute, ribs down. I'm trying to get nice and straight here with my knee as high as possible, and then I go back down to the ground, okay? So one more rep, knee as high as possible, heel down, get full extension, squeezing my glute. I wanna make sure that I don't twist. I'm not out to the side. I'm not leaning. I'm not funny in any way. I'm nice and straight. I look just exactly like I would look if I was doing 2 legs at a time. In fact, what a lot of people do is they'll be here, and they'll try to be nice and stable, and then they'll just extend one leg, and they'll see if they move at all. And if you extend one leg and you really fall off, then you probably don't want to move on to one leg yet. You can stick with 2 legs until you get a little bit stronger. Huh? So that's 2 variations that are just body weight only, and then you can start loading it after that. Obviously the best way is probably with a barbell, but if you don't want to do a barbell yet, or some people think it kind of just doesn't feel that great, you can use a plate or a kettlebell or whatever you're comfortable with. But kettlebell's easy. You can basically just set it right on your stomach as long as it's not too heavy, obviously. And then same thing, you're just gonna push up and squeeze your glutes. Easy enough. Or like I said, or like I showed rather earlier, you can do it with a barbell. I'll give you a few more tips on the barbell specifically. So for me, I usually sit down and then just roll it over me. You have these 2 bones right here. These are your as-is bones, your anterior superior iliac spine. So those little bones, you want to go right below those bones, basically right on your belt line with the bar. That's where it's going to be comfortable. It'll basically be like right across your bladder. And then for me, I tend to grab pretty wide, but you don't have to. I just think it's more comfortable for me. And I put my head all the way down to the ground, toes up. I kind of pick my hips up off the ground just a little bit just to get contact with the bar, just so I know that I'm stable. And then I pull my shoulder blades back, and then same thing. Squeeze my butt, hips up, ribs down, just like this. And the reason I like grabbing all the way out is because I'm actually straight armed right now. For me, I basically grab exactly where I snatch. That way I'm hitting right on my hips. I can be right here. And that way the bar doesn't roll into me and I don't have to expend that much energy with my arms. And chances are it wouldn't roll into me anyway, but that seems to be what's most comfortable for me. So you're welcome to try that. As far as how much to do of glute bridges, there's no magic number to it, but for the most part, it's an assistance movement. You'll probably do it towards the end of your workouts, or at least towards the end of your strength session. So, standard, 2 to 4 sets, 8 to 20 reps, something like that would be totally fine. Moving to failure would be totally fine as long as you're not doing a whole lot of stuff right afterward where number one, you know that you're gonna have problems. If you're gonna go do a bunch of front squats and a Metcon afterward, and you know that your knees always wobble in, then you probably don't wanna fry your glutes right before you go do that Metcon where you're gonna be fatigued with already pre-exhausted glutes. That's not a very good idea. So if you have trouble with this, do some glute activation in your warm-up, do some glute strengthening towards the end of your workout, and then along with that, as your glutes get stronger, obviously, try to focus more on getting a very strong glute contraction on your primary movements like your deadlifts, your front squats, your back squats, your box squats, et cetera, et cetera. That way you can get good at this newfound strength, when it matters on the movements that you're gonna do, in a competition or just where you're trying to set a PR on anything that matters to you. One last final point, if you're a person that has knee trouble or even back trouble, or maybe you break a toe or you sprain an ankle or something like that, this is also a great movement to do to make sure that you're still getting a lot of quality work done for your hips while you're rehabbing something that has given you trouble. Knees are probably the most common. If your back's a little achy, you probably could do this depending on what's wrong with your back. Just depends on how your back feels, but it's worth trying out. If it hurts your back, obviously don't do it. But definitely knees, if you're a person that squats a lot and you're getting like patellofemoral pain or something is just achy or bugging you on your knees, it's not a lot of stress on your knees overall, but there's no sense in letting your hips get weaker as you're resting your knees. So it's a good way to stay in the game while you're healing up. That's it for glute bridges for today. If you have any questions for us, you can always go to barbellshrugged.com. In the bottom right corner, there's a little questions box. You're welcome to fill that out, or you can always email help@barbellshrugged.com. Or if you just want to kind of have a conversation, we're always available on Facebook. Just go to our Facebook wall, post a question. We can answer. Other fans from the show can answer as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you another day.
Can I be there when you use it?
Yeah, so,
Oh, God.
so it's like a wristwatch, but you put it on and it's a little pack. And so the idea is, as you're working out, when you start sweating, the caffeine will seep into your bloodstream.
Make you super dehydrated.
And yeah, I don't know what'll happen.
I feel like caffeine is one of many, many things we could do with technology like that.
Oh shit! I got a really good
gateway.
idea.
Caffeine is the gateway.
Yeah, caffeine is the gateway for
It's
sure.
the proof of concept.
Yeah.
If Andy's going, oh shit, the second you start saying that, that makes me not want to use it.
Well, part of it is the product itself, and part of it is the person who I heard was describing it. So double those things, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, my buddy wants to do. His whole thing is he infuses different products with CBD, and so he wants. I don't know if that'll work, but
I don't know.
We're just seeing what substances we can get to get into the body in as many different ways as possible.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Yeah.
That can't go bad.
No.
Hey, it's an experiment. You need people like that, right?
Science, bitch. Science.
Yeah. I'm a guinea pig for sure. Have you done a coffee enema?
No, I haven't.
It's the best.
I haven't done any enema of any kind ever.
No? You just don't know yourself yet, though.
Oh, I guess not. Maybe that's what I'll do in my retirement.
Remember earlier how we were saying it doesn't have to be fun to be fun?
Yeah.
This counts. This counts. You'd be really proud of yourself. It's very fulfilling to do the coffee enema.
That's right. That's right. You've never.
You want to push the limits? No. What am I stupid? No, I haven't done it yet. But actually, I'd be willing to try just for the fucking crazy experience of it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We'll do it after the show. We'll do it together. Partner enema.
I'll watch.
Just
I'll watch.
don't look each other in the eye. Just no eye contact.
So you gotta brew it. You gotta let
Andy
it get to room
just sits
temperature.
over here too every time, and he's just like,
Not doing it.
You gotta brew it. You gotta let it get to room temperature, and then you're supposed to hold it for like 15
this is
minutes.
a serious thing. You're being serious.
Yeah.
I thought you were just fucking around.
No, an entire quart. So I brewed up. I brewed up an entire quart of coffee, or organic, of course.
Yes, that's the important part.
And then
You don't let it cool down.
nope.
Fair trade.
Don't let it cool down.
No,
as
no,
hot
no,
as
no.
possible.
You must let it cool down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
then,
probably good.
He likes
Yeah.
it with a hint of nutmeg. Yeah.
Put it in a bucket, lay it in the tub,
I can't believe this shit's real.
put the hose in my ass, and just release the clamp. Now you can't soak up a whole quart at once.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you get like a cup or two in there, and then you gotta like close it off. Breathe, let a little more in there, and then of course you can't push it back out. You gotta be in a very receiving state. So
regular coffee to you is just like this is shit.
Child's play.
You're like, why'd you give me this?
It was like, yeah, can you put it in there? No, I'm not interested. So
you go to Starbucks and you ask for like 15 straws.
like, put them all together. It's like
that guy's been in the bathroom for like 30 minutes.
I got a whole quart in there, and I've only done it once.
You were up for like 6 days.
It was awesome. Yeah, high energy for sure.
You went to Burning Man right after.
Yeah, I didn't need anything else.
Awesome.
That was it.
Awesome.
So, worth trying out.
Me like the Barbell Shrugged post-workout protein shake enema recovery pack. We'll sell like 3 of them.
Yeah. Probably more
to Mike.
than that.
Michael Ball.
Getting high on my own supply.
There you go.
All right. What was the now that we've talked about enemas enough? What was the brilliant question you had asked earlier?
I was asking Wes about the sustainability of it, especially competing. You've competed so many years, and you made it to the regionals all years you competed, right?
Yes.
You made it, and then the games once.
Yes.
So are you getting burnt out? Are you tired of it? Are you bored? Are you going to move on to something else? Or are you more invigorated than ever? What's that like for you?
I'm more invigorated than ever on CrossFit, for sure. But I'm definitely done competing.
Oh.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, just my priorities have definitely changed. We have a new baby, and I want to watch her grow up and start walking and crawling and saying her first words and stuff like that.
So you're quitting. Good.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's a quitter.
You're a quitter.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure. Yep, I am quitting, and I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
I've actually never felt like in the last 7 years like more relieved in my life than after that last workout was over, to be honest with you.
So you knew before going in. This was your last year.
I made the decision about like probably a month ago after I had those 20 beers that we talked about.
I was so clear on what I wanted for my life after those 20 beers.
Really 20 beer enlightenment program.
Yeah, really fast. I want to say it wasn't actually 20 beers. It's just an exaggeration. I think you probably die if you. But
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that many. Anyways.
With that kind of attitude, you will.
But it was right after that where I realized like, wow, if I'm having to do this in order to make myself feel normal and happy again. What am I doing? You know, and so, yeah, I'm excited to take it a new way. I was just talking to my wife on the way over here. I'm like, I'm so excited to be able to have one of those days where you're like, oh man, I only have like 20 minutes. I'm gonna go in the backyard, do some double unders and thrusters with some dumbbells, and be done, and be totally okay with that, and be like, yeah, cool, I got it in today, and let's do the stuff that we want to do, instead of being like, oh my god, I didn't do this or this and this and this, and I'm gonna that took away from me making it to the games or regionals, and that's how my life has been for the last 7 years, where it's like I feel if I'm not in the gym and I'm not doing stuff every hour that I possibly can, that I'm a failure, or I'm not doing enough, or I'm not, I don't want to say a failure, but then I'm just not doing what I should be doing to get to where I want to go, So I'm really excited to be able to just work out with the class and high five afterwards and, go about my day. It's really cool. Yeah.
So even though you're not competing, you're not trying to like make it back to the CrossFit Games and and go to the big show, that whole thing doesn't mean that you more than likely don't have any goals that you're still trying to accomplish as far as your physicality or fitness. Like, you still might be trying to deadlift 600 pounds or do a handstand walk for 300 feet or something like that. Do you have any skills or goals that you're still trying to hit, even though you're not competing against other people per se? Like, what are the things you want to hit for you?
Yeah, no. Right now I don't have anything. I'm just excited to be like super healthy again. Like when I say healthy, I mean like, Doug was just saying, like what's your relationship with the floor or whatever you're talking about, and like I now like I drop stuff and I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm gonna pick this up for a sec. You go to get up and you're like, all right, there you go, let's move on. I'm like excited to be able to be like, oh, let me grab that and like get back up and like everything feels good because I'm working out once a day and those types of things. So I think it's just gonna be getting back into touch with feeling really good again and not kind of beat up all the time. And then after that, I'll probably make some goals. I always do that. That's never going to stop until the day I die. I want to be able to have this many pull-ups or deadlift this much or whatever. So, but right now, nothing. Right. My goal is actually to focus more on other people. I think this year is my big goal is to put others as much as I can before myself.
So do you have athletes that are younger and they're trying to make a name for themselves and compete, and you're doing their programming, you're coaching them on a day-to-day basis, that type of thing? Yeah.
I have 2 athletes that I think have a really good shot of actually making regionals next year. They've been pretty close the last couple of years. One of them is a coach at our gym, and yeah, I'm going to put my effort into them this year for sure.
Cool.
How has your philosophy of programming changed in the last 7 years since you first started programming for the CrossFit Games and now versus, I guess, how are you going to program for him? What are the lessons you've learned?
Yeah, I think it's gotten simpler. The longer I've done it, it's. I used to, I want to say, like, gather too much information. I was trying to look at everything, like every little thing. What is their back squat compared to their deadlift, and what was this? And I think all that stuff is really great. But I think when you get to the caliber of athletes that we have now that are even making it through the open and getting close to regionals and stuff like that, they're pretty good athletes. Like, they've got that stuff pretty dialed in, and if they didn't, they probably wouldn't make it that far. Are there little things that can be tweaked, and there are anomalies of people that are, really far off in one direction and just happen to sneak through? Like, yeah. But not the ones that I have. They're pretty well-rounded athletes. And I just try to I focus the most, honestly, on people's, like, I think mental side of things. And really making sure that, like, yeah, I have a structured program for them. We're hitting their weaknesses. We're making sure things are getting better. We're constantly checking to see if, they are getting better. If they're not, how do we adjust that? But I think, like, where I come in as a coach and what makes me feel the best with them is those check-ins every week that we talked about, where I'm looking at them face to face. I'm seeing how they're doing. And I just don't want them to get to the point where I was at, like, a couple months ago, where they're just I got to do this in order to get to this goal that I want, but I fucking hate my life right now. And, like, I will consider success for my athletes at the end of the day that they do this and they're loving it. And they're always having a good time. Yeah, they're going to have to struggle, of course. Everybody's got to, at some point, you may not want to work out, but oh well, suck it up and go do it. There has to be a little bit of that, but at the same time, my job and what I look at when programming for them is making sure that when I check in with them every week that they look happy. And if they look happy and everything's getting better and their benchmarks are getting better and the things that weaknesses that we're working on trying to get better are getting better, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah, that's probably indicative of potential for injury and just the longevity piece. So if someone's not having fun, they're going to compete for 1 year and then check out.
Yep.
And this is one of those. The sport's gotten to a point where you have to prepare for years before you go to regionals for the first time.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you balance what the athlete wants and what they need? Because depending on who you get, they're gonna be like, what, like, just tell me what to do. Like, I don't give a shit how I feel about, like, all the movements I'm doing and the type of programming. Just if you think it's the right thing, I will do it 100% and never break. And some athletes, like, they want to show up and they want to have a good time and they want it to be a little more intuitive depending on how they're feeling that day. But as a coach, how do you balance the wants versus the needs of your athletes?
I don't know. I don't really think I listen to their wants, to be honest with you.
Nice.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I think I listen to, like, they may tell me, hey, I want this, I want that. But if we look at it on paper, is that really what they need? Like, I want a Range Rover. Do I need it? No. So if somebody tells me they want a 600-pound deadlift and they have a 550-pound deadlift, but they have 3 strict handstand push-ups, that want doesn't necessarily go in line with their needs. You know what I mean? So I'll try to go back with them and be like, well, hey, you know what? If we look at your deadlift compared to other games athletes or regional athletes, you're pretty damn close. But let's look at your strict handstand push-ups versus other regionals athletes or games athletes. You're pretty far down. So in your opinion, what do you think you need to work on most?
Right.
And then what do they tell you? Oh, well, shit, probably my handstand push-ups. And so you let them figure it out for themselves, but you as a coach, it's your job to get them to realize that that's what they need to work on. Instead of being like you could say the exact same thing, right? They go, I want to get 600-pound deadlift. And you go, no, that's not what you need. What you need to do is work on your strict handstand push-ups. And they go, well, but I want a 600-pound deadlift. But that's not what you need. Or you go, I want a 600-pound deadlift. Like, yeah, that would be awesome if you had a 600-pound deadlift. How many strict handstand push-ups do you have? And they go, 2. And you're like, okay, well, let's look at that compared to other people. I want you to go online. And I want you to tell me what's a normal average, right? And to make them do the research and figure it out. And then they come back to you and go, well, shit, everybody's got like 30 strict handstand push-ups. I only have 2. And you go, okay, cool. So what do you think we should work on? And they go, oh, okay, my strict handstand push-ups.
Right.
And now they're in line with what you obviously need to do for them, but they're making that decision in their own head.
Yeah. Leading someone through that process of discovery gets way more buy-in.
Yep.
So do you have any set numbers that, like, I know CrossFit posts, like, the averages for, like, the games athletes, like, on average they clean this much and snatch this much and back squat this much, and they have this many pull-ups or whatever. Do you have those numbers just kind of like ready to, like, say, hey, like, here's, like, the average numbers, where do you fall above and below these numbers? That way.
Yeah, we can do that for sure with athletes. Like, I can, Like a girl, like an athlete, I'd like to see her have at least 15 to 20 strict handstand push-ups. I'd like to see her have like 20 unbroken muscle-ups. Would be amazing, right? But what I really honestly look more at, I'm like, okay, well, let's couple that with something else. Let me see how many strict handstand push-ups you have after you do 20 unbroken back squats at whatever percentage weight. Then what can you do? You know, because I've seen a lot of athletes that they'll be able to knock out a ton of strict handstand push-ups, but if you couple that with something else that they're not used to, all of a sudden that goes to shit. And it's like, okay, great, you have this, but we need to make sure we train this with everything else because that's CrossFit, right? They're not going to be like, okay, the event one is how many strict handstand push-ups can you do?
Right.
Like they're going to be like, how many strict handstand push-ups can you do when you feel like you're going to throw up and your heart's in your throat?
Yeah.
And so I look at it more like that, and my job is to find that weakness in there. So like I try to take people's strengths when they tell me like, double unders are really my good thing. And we actually just had this with my athlete up in Seattle. And double unders, handstand push-ups, that stuff, she loves that stuff. Chest to bar pull-ups, right? And the other day we had a workout where she was she's doing some assault bike intervals, some back squats, and some double unders. And her double unders just went to shit. And they never do. And I was like, yes, we found it. She's like, what do you mean, yes? It was a horrible workout. I was like, no, that's my job, is to figure out, okay, what is causing that to happen? And now we need to work on that over and over and over again so that never happens to you. Because imagine that mentally in the middle of a workout at regionals. We were like, this is my strength, here we go, and it just goes to shit. You're like, but this is my strength.
I've heard a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
Where people get into a movement that they think they have down and then falls to pieces.
And what does that do to
game
them
day.
mentally?
Oh, yeah, destroyed.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's my job as a coach, is to not necessarily look at, like what you were saying, Doug, those numbers, like individually. That's great, and that's a good thing to have to get people to buy in, like we were talking about. But also, okay, well, let's take your strengths and try to make them a little weakness with other stuff and see if we can do that.
What are some of the mistakes that you see other coaches or just people when they're training and they're doing CrossFit, being around for so long? What are some of the things that people aren't doing or doing too much of that you generally?
Yeah, if you can say their names and call them out, that'd be great.
Please.
I think you hit on it right there. Too much of. Right at the end of your sentence. I think that a lot of people go straight for volume. If they're not working out 6 hours a day, then they're not doing enough. And I challenge people to focus on intensity more. So I don't even want to say the word intensity, but maybe more focus on what they're doing and putting everything they have into what they're doing. And like I said, 6 events this weekend, a lot of people would do that in a single day now. They'd be like, oh, I'll do 6 workouts in a day. That's not even a big deal. Rich Froning does it and everybody else does it. So whatever. But they're putting in like 60% effort while they're doing it, and they feel great afterwards.
Right.
I'm wrecked after this weekend, and so it's like trying to get people to tap into that, I think, is what I'm after with my athletes. I don't want to say that anybody's doing anything wrong. Because I don't know.
Yeah.
If it's working, it's working, right? And if you have a coach that's maybe volume works for somebody and all their numbers get, as long as they're checking in with their athletes and they honestly truly care about them, cool. Do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. I'm not your mom. I shouldn't tell you what to do. But I'm going to be over here doing my thing with my athletes, and my biggest thing, honestly, with everybody that I work with is just making sure they're having a good time. If they're having a good time and everything's getting better, then we're doing our jobs. And I'll let everybody else worry about themselves.
So when you're getting ready to compete, what's it like in here in your own head? Like, are you a mess the day before? Are you super confident? Are you just glad that the event's finally here and you don't have to wait for it anymore? Like, how do you motivate yourself? What are you thinking about going into a competition?
It used to be that I was a mess. Yeah, like all leading up to it and stuff. But obviously, the more years you do something, the less that becomes. And it's funny, I actually find myself more calm now during the workouts and stuff before than I am before the workouts. So like when the actual beep goes off, it's almost like my heart rate comes down.
Right.
Versus the before, you're like, oh, ready to go and stuff. I saw one thing that they hooked up some heart rate monitors to Navy SEALs when they would like enter rooms and do room clearings and stuff like that. Right before they go in, their heart rate is just jacked through the roof. And the second they bust open the door, their heart rates will come down because they're just moving through what they normally do. They're in a rhythm, and this is what they do every single day, right? And that's how I kind of feel now about like the workouts when I compete. Before the lead up, you're in your zone and heart rate's all jacked up, and the second that beep goes off, it's like almost everything kind of comes down. But I think that's just happened over the last 7 years of doing it. So, yeah.
That's how I feel about MMA. Like waiting to fight is really nerve-wracking, and then once you actually start fighting, then it's just normal. It's not a big deal anymore.
I can imagine getting punched in the face. I'd be really scared too.
Well, yeah, it's not getting punched in the face isn't that crazy because that's again Like, it's just like doing a bunch of like burpee box jump overs. Like, you do that shit every day, and it quote unquote sucks, but it's comfortable.
But it's what
you've
do
been there every day. Like,
Yep.
it's waiting for the competition. That's the nerve wracking part. When you're doing, you're not really. It's not. You can't be nervous while you're doing.
Yeah.
I suppose you could be, but it doesn't seem to happen to me.
It's almost like if you are nervous, then you probably didn't put in the work, right?
That could be the case too.
Right? Because you're out there going like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. Oh, I haven't done this before. Okay, I'm nervous because now I don't know what to do because I haven't done this before. But if you've done it every single day, gone through the rhythms every single day, it just falls into what you normally do. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you help your athletes kind of manage their headspace going into a competition?
Oh man, that's the hardest part, right? I think I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you, just because I think everybody's so different. And so I can't give like a very just grounded, like, oh, I do this to get people ready. Because I think everybody's so different that I need to be able to do whatever works for them. Some people might want to listen to music and chill out. Some people might want to get all hyped up. Some people might want to, I don't know, not be talked to or talk to a lot or hang out with people. And so whatever works for them. And that just comes with, you know, caring about them and all year long or however long you've been working with them, figuring those things out. And so whatever works for them is what I'll do, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
no, it does. I mean, you're saying you just have to have a relationship with that person and be in communication with them about what they feel they need, and then help provide it for them.
Yep, that's a coach.
Yeah,
there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's I talked about this last week at Paleo FX, which is there's so many people want to get better at coaching, and they focus on movement, or they focus on program design, or they focus on nutrition. And I think where a lot of coaches miss the boat is they're not focusing on the relationship and the communication and helping like set the vision for the athlete and all these things that like as a coach you're also a leader, and it's really cool to hear you talk about like as you're describing your coaching style. It's so relationship oriented.
It's 100% relationship oriented.
Yeah, and I think that's where all coaches are going to have to go as time goes on, because all these other things, like you can get a program, any program, anytime, and it's becoming commoditized. And because the information is, the average coach, I mean, I can walk into a CrossFit box, you know, I remember 10 years ago when we opened up, like one of the things that I saw was, I was like, wow, the weightlifting technique is so shitty in CrossFit. There's a huge opportunity to make improvements. That's not the case anymore. I mean, I walk into a gym and like the average CrossFit coach teaches weightlifting really, really well. And so that's become commoditized. Like if you are a great weightlifting coach in town, it really doesn't, it's not as big of a deal as it used to be.
Yeah.
And so that's just happening with everything. Like program design's the same way. There's just so much information out there on how to program well for athletes and the nutrition piece. And a lot of it's getting automated.
Yeah.
So
it's $10 a month.
Yeah, so the coaches that are hyper-focused on writing the best program but don't know how to create a relationship or create a vision and lead their athlete there, those coaches are going to be hurting.
Well, and I think there's a great opportunity to make a lot of money that way, right? You can get 1,000 people to follow your program for $10 a month. Like you're great. You have a great revenue stream, and if that's what's going to make you happy in life is more money, then great. But I don't look at money as a way that's something that's going to make me happy. I look at the relationships that I form with people. I think that is what is going to make me feel whole at the end of the day. You know, when I'm sitting on my deathbed, it's going to be how many people are surrounding me and what are they going to say about me when I leave? And that's richness to me. Like I think Bob Marley said it, right? Like what's richness? You know, like it's, to me, it's how do I make other people feel? And do I really truly honestly care about others? And that's what gives back the most. And so I've tried like you were saying, the online programming thing and stuff. Like I've tried that, you know, I was like, hey, maybe this is a way I can reach out to a lot of people and impact them, but you can't. If I'm writing a program and just putting it out there for $10 a month, like I'm not impacting really anybody. I mean, maybe they get a little fitter and they're stoked because it was cheaper for them and they were able to do it. That's great. But like, I want the people who are in my gym every single day that I talk to, that I see, that we, you know, hug, and we go out on the weekends, and, you know, if they need their grass cut because they're out of town for too long, I go cut their grass, you know, like that's the stuff, that's the coaching that I want to do.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So as far as one-on-one coaching with clients, because you want to have a very solid relationship with that person, have enough time to like give them the best experience possible, do you have like a set number in your head around, I only want to have 5 athletes, or I only want to have 10 athletes that you like are in very close one-on-one, you know, one-on-one programming, one-on-one training with?
No, I'm not that popular, so I haven't gotten there yet. I don't know. I only have right now.
Well, you will now that you've been on the show.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely think it can't be a lot, though. You know, I think you can really only give your all to probably a few people. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Right now, I have 3 athletes total that I program for. One is a coach at my gym. The other one I talk to every single week. And a third athlete, he's actually just starting CrossFit. Like he just opened up his own gym in Belize, and he just loves CrossFit. Like it's like when you first started doing it, you know, and it's like your whole life is that.
Yeah.
And he's just so stoked on it. And yeah, I've been programming for him, but that's like he's very basic. Like we just started this thing, you know, so it's just making sure it was a good time. And he's not even, I would say, like maybe 2 years out from even being anywhere near getting close to regionals or anything like that. So that's a really fun project that I'm stoked on with him.
What do you like working with more, the open level or maybe regional level CrossFitter or the walk in first day guy?
Both. I think it fills me in different ways. You know what I mean? It's like it's the best to be able to coach classes every day at my gym and just have the normal mom or dad that comes in and, you know, really just make sure they have a good time and that this is the best hour of their day. But it's also super awesome to be able to get kind of like nerdy on it, you know, too, as well, and see people really push the abilities that they have too. So I think they're both awesome.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks for joining us today. We want to shut down? Or you got another question?
No, go ahead. I didn't have anything super important. I was just going to – we hadn't talked about nutrition yet. So I was going to jump on that train just for a second. I was going to say, now that you're not competing, how is your nutrition going to shift from like 6 years of competitive CrossFitter now to just being like a normal dude?
No kidding.
There'll be a lot of similarities certainly, but I'd imagine it'll change a little bit as well.
Yeah, a lot more pancakes for sure.
Oh.
More pancakes.
Yeah, and waffles. You know what I mean? No, I enjoy feeling healthy. Like I enjoy weighing and measuring my food. It's something that makes me feel good about myself, and so I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm going to keep weighing and measuring my food, and I probably will still eat the exact same thing every single day. And
what do you eat every day? What can you walk us through?
Yeah. So in the mornings, eggs, bacon, and potatoes, stuff like that. It's like 200 grams of potatoes, 2 eggs, 3 strips of bacon, a cup and a half of strawberries and blueberries, 1 cup of coffee, and then as much water as I can get in the morning. And then recently I hooked up with one of my friends, Nick Massey, owns Ice Age Meals. And so he actually provides me with all the rest of the food I eat throughout the day. And that's probably going to be done now that I said I'm retired. So I'm going to have to actually start making my own food again.
Lost your sponsorship.
Yeah, but yeah, and then I would eat a bunch of those all day. And they're really cool because it's he has like a rice option, and then he also has like sweet potatoes and stuff like that option too as well. And so it's anywhere. It usually is about like 220 grams of protein every day, between 400 and 500 grams of carbs, depending on what I'm doing that day, and then about 130 grams of fat. I try to hit that every day.
And how many meals a day roughly?
4 or 5.
Yeah.
If I'm hungry at night right before I go to bed, I'll have like a small something, but that's pretty rare.
What about supplements?
The only supplement I take is this ATP Mechanics, this hat that I have on. It's just amino acid, and that's it. Yeah.
That's pretty basic. I expect you to have a little more on that list. Are you someone that just doesn't like supplements overall?
Tried it.
Not big into supplements, but there's a few that I usually take. Why only one in your case?
I've tried all the other stuff, you know, like the pre-workouts and, you know, beta-alanine and, you know, creatine and all that sort of stuff, and I just didn't notice a difference. And so I felt like I was just throwing my money away. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to try this. And I'm going to eat food, and I'm going to drink water, and I'm going to try to laugh as much as I can and get some sunshine and work out, and that's what made me feel the best. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I take a lot of supplements, but it's not the stuff that everyone else is taking. It's like always trying out new stuff and figuring it out.
That's what you had said earlier when you said supplements, and then you kind of laughed, right? And you're like, well, supplements, but they're not really supplements, right?
Yeah, they're not like the typical supplements. Like there's no pre-workout. There's no you know, there's not a lot of whey protein making it in and stuff like that. It's more just like the stuff that's on. It's a little expensive too, so the average person's not going to take it. But it's like just special stuff.
There's a reason
I'm
why
always
it's expensive.
Yeah, there's a reason it's expensive.
Yeah.
If I'm not spending very much money on it, I start getting curious about what I'm actually putting in my body.
Yeah,
like the price actually makes me feel comfortable sometimes.
Yeah, that's funny. It's actually like the AT Mechanics stuff. So it doesn't the guy who made it, he asked us when he finished making it, like, he went through some pretty cool stuff. Like, he would prick our blood before, he'd look at it under a microscope, we'd do Fran or Helen or whatever, prick our blood afterwards and look at it, and he was trying to figure out, okay, what's the difference between, like, a normal, you know, guy who goes to the gym and does, you know, abs on Tuesday and Thursday and runs on the treadmill versus CrossFit? Like, what's causing this such amazing change in people, you know? And he looked at it from that perspective, that science perspective, and came up with these amino acids that he felt would help us. And then he goes, okay, well, so what flavors do you guys want it to be? And we were like, nothing.
Yeah.
Well, just give us the shit we need. You know? And I think that was probably the worst business decision he could have ever made, you know what I mean? Because it's like, people want it to taste like lemon lime or some other crap like that. And we're like, no, just give us the stuff we need that's going to make us healthy and make us better athletes, and then we'll take that, and that'll be good.
That's one thing I really appreciate about that company is there's no – it's like it's just what you need, no fillers. But the person who, like, only wants what they need is rare.
Yes.
Most people want – like, can we put more
business.
caffeine in it so I can feel amazing? When I really should be taking a nap. And could you make it lemon lime or fruit punch? Because I have the taste buds of a child.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Well, yeah, he's like we've done like booths before at events and stuff, right? And they'll do tastings, and it's so funny to see people try this stuff because it tastes like ground up aspirin in water. You know what I mean? And it's just like everybody's like, "Oh my god!" And the Advocare booth is right next door, and they're like, "Come on over, you know, try this and stuff." And he goes like, "Hey, you know, I can put some Coca-Cola in here if you want." And he's like, "But is that what you want, or do you want something that's going to work?" And so it's when they started doing that and seeing their vision behind it and the way that they were talking about it, I was like, yeah, this is a pretty badass company. Like, I'm stoked.
So if you're not on a very extensive supplement list, is there any other thing that you use for recovery you found that's effective? Like stretching. Or like any recovery tips?
Yeah, I do ROMWOD like every day. I'll do it in the morning a lot now that I'm getting older when I wake up. I found that's pretty cool. And I think honestly, it's if you want to have the best recovery, I think it's like listening to your body, right? Like if you're beat up, it's not working out as much. If you feel good, it's working out a little bit more. It's if you're cranky, it's taking a day off, or it's getting. I think sunshine is huge for people. I think not enough people get vitamin D the right way. You know, like actually sitting outside with your sunglasses off and closing your eyes and staring at the sun. You know, they call it like eye bathing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wait till the sun's going down right at the edge and I just stare at it.
There you go. Then you have that mental image right before you go to sleep.
There's a trick too. You got to do this with your tongue. You got to eat the sun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try that.
You don't do tongue tanning like Mike does?
I don't know. Between that and the enema caffeine thing, I don't know.
You don't want a sunburn on your tongue.
This is the difference between you and Rich Frowning. That right there. That's the difference.
That's what I'm missing out.
It's dedication.
That's why I didn't make it the last
exactly
6
right.
years. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Where can people find more about you?
That's a good question. I don't know. You have to come to Gilroy, California, garlic capital of the world, and hunt down our gym, I guess. No, you can go to coastrangecrossfit.com. My email address is on there. Everything you need to know. But yeah, that's it.
Do you have an Instagram account?
Oh yeah, I guess I do. Yeah, I do. I don't know why you'd want to follow me though. But Wes Piatt 2013 on Instagram. But it's just pictures of JoJo and my dog. So
nice.
Yeah.
You can get DMs over there too.
Yeah.
Direct messages.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Wes.
Yeah.
Cool.